All right, so yeah, we're here. Let me see. You know the spiel, the main points. Um, this week is the reading period, so I think your final exam will become available this upcoming Sunday at 11 a.m. And sorry, I'm just thinking. I guess this isn't necessary. I'll do this. Yeah, final exam will become available. You'll have access to it for just about 5 days. The hard deadline is up, not this Friday, but a week from this Friday for all assignments. Is going to be Friday, December 8th at 11:59 p.m., right? So that's when your final exam is due, and that's when everything locks out, right? Idealistically, hopefully you've completed all other assignments, and so that way when you submit your final, you're done with the course. If you are submitting assignments like late or retroactively, I would encourage you to prioritize the exams. That's where you get the most bang for your buck. And also, again, I am proud of you guys. I know I said it on a Monday, but I just want to reiterate that. Like, again, this is not easy, right? It's simple, but it's not easy, right? It's simple in the fact that just, do the homework. You have unlimited attempts. I feel like it's simple, but it's just not easy because obviously life happens. Math is not for everybody. So doing something like this, especially if you're not like mathematically inclined, which a lot of my students are, this is not a small feat. Not everybody can do it. Everybody doesn't make it through, right? But I try to help as many people as I can, as best I can, within where it can be justified, and I can get the support of, my superiors or whatever. So with today, let's take as much time as we can to just review and just try to maximize our time together. So we're going to go ahead and hop over. We'll start with question 68, and just kind of keep working on the study guide. I'll do the best I can with my emails. I'm not good with emails. Like when I'm not with you guys, because I get so many of them, I just like kind of zone out, and I just check it like at the last possible moment, right? I'm the king of procrastination, so it's like that's why I try to go as gentle as I can on you guys as far as procrastination. I give you as much time as I possibly can, but again, that hard deadline, because I have to start submitting grades after that point, right? This class also has a lab component, so hopefully you all have been collaborating with Dr. Lamar. The lab component, now this does not apply to my 2 p.m., but my other courses, hopefully you've been collaborating with Dr. Lamar. Her component counts for 10% of her overall grade. For whatever we do together, I'm going to calculate it like normal. I think that let me see. I think that like your exams, I know that the exams with the final come up to about 80% of our portion, and then the homework counts for 10% of your overall of our portion, and the quizzes count for 10% of our portion. I'm going to get a score there, and then I'm going to scale that to 90%. I'm going to say whatever your normal grade would be, I'm going to say times 0.9, and then I'm going to take the grade from the lab component with Dr. Lamar, whatever grade she posts, I'm going to say times 0.1, right? And that's how I'm going to calculate your final grade. It's still unlimited attempts on all assignments. The system is set to take your highest score. There's only a 10% late penalty, so you can still earn an A- on any assignment. I think that's huge, right? If it were me, I would just do it until I got whatever score I wanted, the highest score possible. And then that repetition is honestly how you learn a lot of this stuff. So, that's how you learn, right? Okay, so I feel like that's enough. Usually, I do teach college algebra too. If you're planning on, if you like this style, this is my favorite way to present it currently. I like to be remote. That allows me to kind of engage multiple students across multiple universities and platforms. I have students all over the world, and but it allows me to kind of have a home base, the unofficial guy in the chair, right? Spider-Man reference, right? But any course that I teach is pretty much this format, right? Using Pearson, unlimited attempts, at most a 10% late penalty, that kind of thing. It's just whatever the next set of information is. Whoever you decide to take for whatever course you have coming up, it's always a good idea to do your research on your professors. I don't know if Rate My Professor is still a thing, but it's, just dig in there and see if you can find whatever you can on your professors. Ask around, ask like your peers, like I'm going to take this course, anybody you recommend, and just see what they say. And it's a good idea to have a sense of what to expect from your professors. I was when I was a student at Morehouse, I definitely was like overzealous. You know, my peers warned me about a professor, but they had warned me about other professors, and I was like, this is not bad. Just do what they say, and it's fine. It's easy, right? But I had this one professor. No, they were right. Like I should have listened to them. He was just like, I think he was just old. He was intelligent, but I think he was just old, and he was just like, you know, totally disconnected, right? So it kind of killed my little. Anyway, I'm gonna let that go. You know, obviously it happened. This is years later, and I'm still like talking about it, but it's okay. But the moral of the story, you know, do your research on your professors, and it's a good idea to have a sense of what you're getting into, and you want to try to align yourself with whatever professors you feel like you have the highest chance of success. You know, so that's the long and short of all of that. Okay, so this question comes from section 2.1, question 37. For this equation, determine whether the graph of the given quadratic opens up or down. Now, we know that one off the bat because the leading coefficient is positive, so that means it should open up. I'm going to just go ahead and submit that one. Okay. Then part B, find the vertex. Now, we have this vertex formula, which is negative b over 2a. So it's going to be 6 over 2, which is 3. Right. So I'm just going to go ahead. I think they want an order pair. Right. Type in order pair. So when x is 3, we need to find the corresponding y. Let's see. Oh, come on. Okay, this is a little bit of a tangent. And I mean, you know, it's our last class, so we can have some fun. Like, it's totally okay. Obviously, I'm a gamer, right? And so that's what I was literally doing right before class. Somehow I timed it. I know when I'm doing a match, I got to give myself at least 34 minutes. And sure enough, right on the money, it finished right within that time. But like when you're playing like a 5v5 battle royale style game, and it's all about cooperation, you know, what do you do when you have like teammates that are just afraid to do anything? Like they choose a role and then they won't do anything. So it's like you either get really, really good and you learn how to fill the missing link, or you learn how to just let shit go, right? And that's a powerful life lesson that I learned, and I'm constantly practicing daily, especially when I game. It transfers into other things, in that I feel like learning how to let shit go saved my life, right? I definitely had some peers when I was a student. They didn't know how to let stuff go, and they get one bad grade, and you know they unalive themselves. And I'm like, it's not that serious, right? It's serious, but not that serious, because where there's a will, there's a way. As long as you have a will, there's always some way to get something done. If you're talking to somebody and they're not saying what you want to hear, you're just talking to the wrong person. You always have a choice. You always have a choice, all right? You know, and I mean, if you really want to take it to, I don't, you know, I have some controversial stuff to say there, but it's optimistic, but I know where it can be challenged. But I know that they're okay where they are, but, you know, I still don't think that's a good idea. But you always have a choice. You know, there's always some way to get something done. And if you're talking to somebody that they're not saying what you want to hear, you're just talking to the wrong person. Let me check on Zoom real quick. I know we're not done with this one. I just want to see if we're missing. Let me get these gentlemen. Okay, so these two. Oh, he must have like popped in and out. And so let me make sure. Yeah, I got him. Like this. Let me go ahead and mark these guys. All right, and I can let these guys in. Yep. All right, let's keep the party. Let's keep the party going. All right, so when x is 3, right? So when x is 3, let me see, we're going to have 9 minus 18 is negative 9. Minus 7 looks like it's a negative 16. Negative 16. Let's see if that works. Oh, no. Okay. You know. And then also, I just want you guys to be aware that, you know, you are important, whether you realize it or not, whether you know it or not. Like, you have a piece of the puzzle of this grand experience we call being a human. There's something unique that you each and every one of you have that nobody else has, right? You have a unique perspective, and like without your input, without your unique energy, we're going to be missing a piece of the puzzle, and we won't be able to solve whatever it is going on here. You could be the one that has like the key piece that transforms the whole game. And you never know who has that. right? You don't know who it is. It could be me, you, her. It could be somebody down your lineage. It could be somebody that you come across that you like. You say something or do something, or just your presence alone, like completely transforms their perspective, right? And they were going to do something nefarious, but just because you exist, you never know how this stuff unfolds, right? So, just stuff like that. The axis of symmetry is going to be the x coordinate of the vertex, so that's going to be x equals 3. Okay. Let's see, find the x and y intercepts. I prefer to find the y intercept first, but they're asking for the x intercepts, so we would set y to 0. We want a factor, right? So is it 7 and 1? A -7 and a +1? Mm-hmm. So when you solve it, you're going to get a -1 and a +7. Let me see. 1 plus 6 is 7 minus 7 is 0, right? Okay, I'm good with it. Okay. And then the y-intercepts, if we set x to 0, we get -7. The y-intercept oftentimes is much easier than the x-intercept because a lot of the terms just cancel out. When you let x be 0, a lot of terms cancel. Oh, my mother, I have to. So I think I've mentioned this before, but another thing I do intend to do at some point, because I'm a heavy gamer and I'm a mathematician, I was like, okay, well, how can we cross those two fields together? And so, like, in my mind, I'm always thinking, well, I need to look up and see what research has been done on the game of mathematics with chess, and then apply that to the type of games that I play. I also play like Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle, and that uses a lot of RNG, which is random number generation. And so then it's really just a game. It's really more so a game of chance and probability. I use probability in these games too. I know one game I'm playing, it's like a draw. Like they have these little mini games, and I was like, okay, I know if I have at least this many, one of those should hit. So once I hit my mark, then I apply it and it works. Another way I like to express my mathematics is through like art and like origami. I do like origami and sculptures. I do painting, drawing, dance, music, and rhythm. All of this is an expression of mathematics to me, right? I know we're doing numbers, and this is like I even go. It even spills over to spirituality. I study a lot of like numerology, crystals, healing the body. A lot of like diseases and things like that is cause and effect, right? Everything that has a beginning has an end. So if you were able to start this life and not be sick or whatever, then this illness comes about. Obviously that's with a grain of salt. But that's just how I feel, and I feel like okay, when something comes along. Well, it didn't just come out of nowhere. There has to be a root cause. And a lot of times, from my experience, I found that a lot of illness is linked to like just our habits. A lot of it's the food. A lot of it's the food. I saw a video the other day that was linking stress to illness. And it was like, the more stressed out you are, the more you deplete your nutrients, and then the more sick you become. Right. So that's why I feel like it's super important to identify what your passion is, what you would do if you had all the money and all the time in the world. What would you do with your time? And then I try to encourage people to do that as much as possible. I posed that presentation to my nephew over the Thanksgiving break, and his response was, play video games. Now, initially, internally, there was a part of me that was like, yo, you can't take care of yourself again. This is what I wanted to say to him, but I didn't. And I don't know if I should, but I didn't, right? Part of me was like, how are you going to take care of yourself if you just game, right? You can't like generate money, not real money. I mean, you can, but it's difficult. But part of me was like, no, that's what he said his answer is. You don't know how it's going to unfold. You don't know what it's going to be for him. So it's like, okay. And I don't even really want to say that the probability of generating money is low. There's something that he can discover walking that path that might activate something in him, right? So I still feel like him following his heart is the best thing. It's hard up front, but once you find yourself and you find your rhythm, you find your path, you never work a day in your life. You generate. It's like magic. It's like whatever you need comes. If you're open and you kind of fluid to like some of the different routes or whatever, and you're honest with yourself. And one of my former students would say, "To thine own self be true." Right. So if you're at least be honest with yourself and walk that path, there's something that like your spirit team and ancestors and they're trying to show you. The universe is trying to show you. But if we're always stunting and putting on airs and being fake, I mean, you can find something there too. But you might be moving away. You might be taking the hard route. I don't know. I'm just ranting because I can. You know? Just trying to say words of encouragement. Let me see. Okay, I think we're looking good here. And then just because it's the last day, let's go ahead and generate another number. Let's look at question 9. Let's look at question 9. And like, I don't believe in capitalism at all. Oh, wait a minute. Graph. Okay, so it's a parabola. U-shaped curve. The vertex, I'm just going to click on 2 points. I just click randomly. Now, we said our vertex, negative b. I think we had 3, negative 16. Let me see. 2a, negative a, 3. And then I think it was negative 16, 9, negative 9, negative 16. So let's put the vertex at 3, negative 16. And all I'm doing is dragging it into the proper position, dragging that vertex into the proper position. And then a simple one would be like if we just move 1 to the left or right, or actually we can do when x is 0. When x is 0, the corresponding y was negative 7. So I'm gonna just drag the second point to 0, negative 7. And that's simple. All right, let's save that. And another reason I don't mind ranting today, just, you know, going off on these tangents, is because I feel like me talking about this stuff is enough, right? At this stage, at this point, I don't really know what more I can say that's different or that clicks. So, you know, in all honesty, I do feel like, you know, we've talked enough about math. I just want to kind of throw some other stuff in there. But how math pertains to other things. Again, I do use it in my gaming. I use it in a lot of stuff. It definitely got me in trouble trying to use it with people, like just mathematical concepts, because people, heck on it, what the heck? Oh, check the answer. I was like, I know I graph this thing. A lot of times what I found that is that when it comes to people, they'll do things out of spite, right? Just to be onerous, right? Even if you're trying to help them or this, that, and the other, when they just decide that they just don't want to cooperate, you have to, I've learned again to let shit go, and you have to like allow them, you have to honor their divine will, and they have a divine right to choose for themselves, right? And so what I've learned when it comes to like as being a truth seeker, seeking out the truth cannot be told, only realized, right? So it's like, you know, when I started that journey of health and wellness, you know, I was discovering like the effects that meats and the processed ingredients and the artificial ingredients with the dyes, and I was finding out like how this was affecting the body. I got really, really sick when I was a student at Morehouse. I was sick, hospitalized like 2 weeks to months at a time every year around finals, and somehow by the good grace of God, I still graduated on time, not owing any money. So that's when I knew like, okay, I'm here on purpose, right? I'm not going anywhere until it's my time. No, despite my best efforts, right? There's nothing I can do other than just lean into it, right? So I realized that I'm supposed to be here. Now, I don't know the full extent, and sometimes I can feel myself resisting, but you can't have an experience like that and not acknowledge that you were supported in this realm and beyond, right? So I'm just doing my best to play the game of life. I definitely am an ultimate gamer because that's all I do pretty much around the clock. But I try to extend those experiences and those lessons to other realms. You know, I do landscaping, cleaning, painting, like interior painting, exterior painting, power washing. I be thinking of ideas to like this time of year, it's just endless amounts of leaves. Like you'll pick up the leaves and with the hours, it's like you didn't even do anything. And I'm like, now I know some people use the leaves for compost, right? You can pick up the debris, collect it, put a little bit of dirt in there, and like any food that like will degrade, like banana peels, apple skins, or whatever, you put it in there, and it makes like a nutrient rich dirt for like planting and growing stuff. So I'm always thinking like, instead of just throwing these leaves down the hill, how could I collect them and capitalize on them? Because we're in a capitalistic society, which I don't really believe in. But again, when in Rome, you got to play the game, right? At some point, I do want to start like learning how to clean my own water. You have to look up the laws on like collecting your own rainwater. Some places it's illegal to do that, so you kind of need to be aware of that. Like there was a story of a guy that had a bucket on his front lawn just turned up. An officer saw it and fined him. saying that it's illegal for him to do that. And when you look at the books, but it's so sinister because they basically don't want us to have access to anything. All the abundance of this realm, of this earth, everything is free. The water is free, seeds are free, the food, everything is free. The land is free, but they always trying to find ways to charge us for this stuff. They always trying to find ways to charge us for things that are free, right? And that's it's sickening. It really pisses me off, right? So again, through my experience, I had to learn, instead of complaining about everything, I've learned to acknowledge the complaint, right? Don't don't suppress my complaint. I'm having that experience. I'm having that frustration for a reason. And so then it dawned on me, okay, if I really want this thing to get resolved, because it's irritating me, because I notice it, because it caught my attention, that means I'm supposed to be the one to take some action to resolve the matter, right? Like and but it's wild because now I'm aware of like different ways to get clean drinking water from anywhere in the world for free. There I've seen one schematic where the claim is that they were in the middle of the desert. They have these nets, these like fine mesh nets that they put vertical in the desert in the air, and as the air passes through the nets, water condenses on them and collects at the bottom, and they collect free, clean drinking water. So if these nets can collect clean water out of thin air, if you can collect water out of the air in the desert, that means you can collect clean water, or essentially clean, anywhere. So I have a friend that she, and again, I feel like we've talked about math enough, so I'm using this as a platform to just talk about some other stuff. I have a friend that she used to do these like enrichment programs for children, um, where she would just do these science demonstrations. I thought it was fantastic. And like one of her presentations was on how to clean water. And so she kind of talked about carbon and like I think it's carbon and charcoal, like, but it's carbon and how good it filtered, how it filters out most things. And so just this whole science of how to clean water, that's like the basics of life, right? Can you find clean water? Um, and then I start to study like nature, and I'm like, okay, how is it that like these massive trees can pull water from the ground all the way up through the whole tree with no electricity or anything like that? Like, how are they pulling it up? And I'm under the impression that they're using like capillary action. So I'm like, okay, if these plants can just naturally, with no energy, no effort, pull water from a low space to a high space, well, now we have like at least two different techniques to do that, right? We talked about the mesh nets. What if we put those nets, like on top of our house and collected the water up high? If you and they just let it run, you collect the water in a vat. Once you have stored water raised up, that's potential energy, and you can use that to generate clean energy. Recently, so we can either mimic the capillary action of trees or just install nets up high, and they'll naturally collect water over time, and then you clean the water and you can use it to generate power. And again, I'm just sharing this stuff because I've been sitting on it for like decades, and I'm like, well, if I'm not going to take action, let me at least plant the seed to somebody that might be able to take it and like, maybe create something from it. There was another one I wanted to share. So then, just on the topic of water, I don't know if y'all ever seen this movie called What the Bleep Do We Know and The Secret, but in What the Bleep Do We Know, there's this scene where they're walking through like a subway and they're giving a tour where they're talking about this scientist that did this study on water and like how thoughts affect water, right? So I'm going to put a pin right there. And then we'll come back to that. And then the other story that I just wanted to bring to your attention on water, I've recently seen where people have been making, and I even saw one just like a few hours ago, another one, like a third different version of this iteration, where people are making basically water powered batteries, right? Through hydrolysis. And it seems like, now I haven't tested it, so I don't know if I can actually get it to work, but they might, so basically you have like these metal plates, these steel plates separated by like rubber, rubber tubes, so there's spacing, and you hook it up to like a battery. I'm not sure how the whole process works, but when you apply current into it, it starts bubbling, and I guess the hydrogen and oxygen separates, and it gives off like hydrogen gas. It somehow you're able to collect a gas off of it and generate electricity, right? But off of a water power. battery. Like you can dip it in the water, it'll start generating electricity just from the process, and then it stops. Now again, I haven't tested it, but I've seen it at least 3 different iterations. Now, if I did a little bit of research and I dug, I can confirm or deny if it works. That's one of my favorite things to do is say, okay, is this fact or cap? You know, like they show something, it's like, okay, do I have those ingredients? Can I confirm or deny what they're doing? Right. So I test it for myself whenever possible. I really am a scientist. I'm a chemist. I just do math as a day job. But you know, the way my mind works. Like once I decided I want to do something, I just obsess over it until I like just check it for myself. Right. I want to get my hands on like a 3D printer and start like I've seen where people have made this father son combo. They built their own. They 3D printed their own Lamborghini. Like you know, they 3D printed all the parts. And I think Lamborghini did like give them some of the supplies, like some of the different parts, but essentially most of it was 3D printed. So then I'm like, okay, if they can 3D print a Lamborghini, but it took them like 5 years, right? But I'm like, okay, if they can do that, well, what's the limit? What are the limits to what you can and cannot 3D print? In my mind, I'm like, well, can we 3D print a house, right? Now, obviously, you've seen there are these like, you know, giant 3D printers that can print a whole house, you know, it's like this concrete and they just kind of goes around and press the whole house. But I'm like, well, can you just print all the parts? And I know it'll take a long time, but what if you just print all the small parts and put them together to build a house? Now you need the materials and all and time and all this, but you know, it's just sitting there waiting for somebody to do it. So we talked about the water power battery, and then let's hop back. Let's see the time. Let me backtrack to the where they were in the subway. So this scientist, I can't remember his name. I can't think of it. It's like Akimoto or something like that. He's a Japanese scientist, but he did this study to see the effect of thoughts, the effect that thoughts had on water, right? So he had like 3 different vats. In one vat, he just did nothing to it. It was just regular water, right? He did nothing, no kind of nothing to it. In the second vat, I think he did like I love you. He got a priest to bless it with like I love you and just put this energy or chi or this thought of I love you onto the water vat. And then on the third one, he put like I hate you, I want to kill you, stuff like that, low energy. Right. So he took samples from each 3 vat, and then I think he like froze the samples. He looked at the crystalline structure form from the different vats, right? So when he looked at the one with positive energy, I mean the structures were like symmetrical, beautiful, like these beautiful like ice crystalline structures, really really beautiful. And then when he looked at like I hate you and the negative one, that kind of stuff, the crystalline structures were like deformed, asymmetrical, like they looked really distorted and weird. And I want to say that if my memory serves me correctly, the one that looked the worst was the one that was neglect, the one that he didn't do anything to, that was neglected, no kind of energy. It had like the worst crystalline structure. So then his conclusion was, if thoughts have these effects on water and we're 70% water, imagine the effect that thoughts have on us, right? And that can be, and if you just do a search for like water experiment, you'll see it where people have done it with water. There's another version where people have done it with rice, the same little thought experiment, you know, thinking on things. They did it with rice and kind of let it sit over time and see what effect it had. So these are the kind of things that I like to study, right? I always use my imagination. In an ideal world where I had unlimited time, unlimited money, what would I do? Then it took me a while to realize it, but I realized that I'm a creator, right? I'm an inventor, a creator, divine being in that sense. And so I just need to start making things. I have ideas. I have a lot of them. They just kind of keep coming. You know, I'm kind of indifferent about capitalizing on them. I don't really believe in that, because another thing that tends to happen when people make these discoveries as far as like free energy and water power batteries, a lot of times they get unalived by like the people that's in power right now. Like again, because it's a capitalistic society, these companies have a vested interest in suppressing free energy and like things that free people. If we were aware that we can pull energy out of thin air, why would we pay a power bill? If we actually took the time to figure out how to generate our own water and clean our own water, why would we pay a water bill? So they don't want people to be aware of stuff like this, so they can keep charging us out the yin yang for everything that's free, because they're banking on us being lazy and afraid. All right. So that's the power of like institutions like Morehouse, because these are places where people can actually start to like study these kind of things and like, dive into some of these different concepts and in whatever form. Right. I mean, there's more. There's more. It just kind of keeps going. It just kind of keeps going. But again, energetically, we're in the age of Aquarius, so it's like we're moving. We're in a realm where what that means is that there's no privacy. So how they had so much power and they moved in like the shadows and they would lie to us and bamboozle people. Everybody's waking up and everybody's starting to realize that we've been bamboozled. We've been lied to. We've been duped. People starting to realize it. And so these people that have their power in these shadow organizations, they're losing power because they kept their power by staying in the shadows. But the more that people know or are aware of these different concepts and techniques, the less power that they have until we reach a critical mass, right? So again, I'm just doing this because it's the last day. I think that like it's important to kind of just at least put this on your radar. Not that you got to do now obviously I do encourage you to do your own research. Don't take my word for any of this stuff. I'm just sharing what my experience has been. I get stuff wrong. I'm a human just like you, right? And I'm doing the best that I can like everybody else, right? So with my level of awareness, I'm doing my best to expand my awareness and my consciousness and then like assimilate it and do better, do the best that I can with whatever I can, right? Okay. So that was a fun little rant, right? We'll see. Like, I mean, it might evolve some more, but again, I'm just doing it just as a closer. The center and the radius of the circle. So this is already in, I guess it's called the standard form. Except for it needs to be x minus and y minus. So the center is going to be -5, -4, and the radius is going to be square root of 11. All right. So I feel like in this day and age, we're in a realm where you don't necessarily need to know all the answers, but you need to at least know how to find the answers. Right? It's better if you just know the answers. But what's just as good, because when you're in the real world, you're gonna have access to your resources, so you can do research and you can dig, right? So I feel like as long as you have some way of arriving to the conclusions, that's a great place to be. That's not a bad place to be, right? At least if you know how to find it. Now, obviously, it doesn't. It can kind of hinder you in a proctored environment, but that's a proctored environment, right? In application, you have access to everything. The radius is going to be the square root of 11. Square root of 11. Let's hang out for like 10 more minutes. Generate. Let's go to question 60. Just trying to give you some kind of words of encouragement or something to just like put a little bit of spin, a personal spin on the energy that can help you guys however I can. Now, obviously, I'm limited in what I can do. I can't just like give grades, but I feel like allowing unlimited attempts is my way of like assisting you guys, or only doing a 10% late penalty is like, that's something that I can do. Express the given function as a composition of two functions. So this is called composition of function, f composed g of x, where this means the second function inside the first function, right? So if we were to write f of x like normal, we would replace each x with the entire function g, right? So here, a possible inside function could be like x cubed, right? The x cubed minus 5, and the exterior function could be b. Yeah, let's just go with b. That one looks proper. Okay, let's look at question 2. See, I'm losing my voice. I'm almost to my limit. All right. I don't know if anybody studies like astrology or this system called human design. Human design is like so trippy. It's trippy. Like I was having all these experiences. I was like, man, why is it that I keep having these experiences? Everybody I come across is responding to me to this way. It's like, what is going on? And then I'm still part of this organization. I just haven't been in a while. I just kind of went off on my own. But we used to study the system called human design, and in that system, it was explaining everything I was experiencing. I was like, oh, it's not me. That's just the nature of the energy. I was like, okay, let me learn how to work with the energy. But yeah, that helped me too. That helped me on my journey to just get a little bit of perspective, to be a little bit more patient, to be gentle with myself, right? To give myself some grace and allow myself space to just be me. It's okay if I want to be angry or upset or lazy or whatever it is that I want to be. It's okay, right? I have that right as a divine being. That's my right. Now, obviously, being in this realm, there's consequences. Like what was that? Key and Peele? Consequences. but but I'm in a space where I'm allowing myself and processing and saying, okay, why am I getting upset? What is it that the universe is trying to show me? Do I need to like let something go? Do I need to slow down? Does this need attention? Like, why am I getting this feeling? Like, instead of saying, oh, you're crazy, like, no, you're getting this feeling for a reason. Just slow down, pause for a moment, and ask yourself, like, why are you having this experience? Distance formula, distance between P and Q. I'll put the formula here. I'll take some notes here. So the distance between 2 points P and Q. Oh, come on. P. There you go. That's fine. So the distance between 2 points is going to be the square root. It's going to be what? X sub 2 minus X sub 1 quantity squared plus Y sub 2 minus Y sub 1 quantity squared. Okay. Another, I don't even know what you would call this, but I remember I was given a similar presentation to students in the past. Once upon a time, I used to have this philosophy that like everything happens for a reason, right? Like, and it's almost there, but it was still a little bit that was missing with that. And so students were like, well, how do you explain, sexual like when somebody's assaulted or whatever? And, I tried to stick to my guns and say that like, oh, the person chose that in their previous life, but it never really sat well with me. And so this group the same group that I was talking about earlier offered a rebuttal. Like, this is like years down the line. They were like, well, instead of we chose it and everything happens for a reason, they were like, some things do happen that's unintentional, right? Like when we supposedly choose everything before we come here, some things were accidental. But their response was that our support team, like our ancestors and spirit guides and beings like that, they were like, they're master remixers. So they can take any experience and spin it and make us stronger, right? It basically paralyzes that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger kind of thing. And then like, I think I had another friend that would say, life's not getting any easier, or life doesn't get any easier. We just get stronger, right? Like it doesn't get any easier, but we get more savvy, we get more efficient, we get harder, better, faster, stronger, technological, right? So life doesn't get easier, we just get stronger, we get smarter, we get better, we get faster, we get more efficient, right? On this journey. If you want a good watch, if you haven't seen it, I would encourage everyone I think it's on Netflix, this series called The Good Place. I think they had a fantastic conclusion at the end of it. And basically what it is this series, it's like a comedy. It's a comedy and there's something else blended with it, but it's a comedy where it's following these 4 protagonists where they've just entered the afterlife. And so they just have some pretty interesting concepts in there. I remember thinking to myself, I was like, okay, if suppose in some world, we're an eternal being, we're all powerful, all knowing, omnipotent, omniscient, we knew everything, we had all power, we lived forever. If we were that being, to me, it seems like boredom would be a real concern for a being like that, right? Like if you had all power, like I know when in the past when I used to play games and it was on God mode, I would get tired of it and I wouldn't want to play anymore, right? Because you knew everything was going to happen. So one narrative is that that's who we really are at our core. And then it's like, to me, I was like, okay, if we are these powerful beings like that, then what we experience in this realm makes sense, and to some degree, right? Like, well, we definitely are not bored because we don't know, we don't remember anything. I think I get the impression that like we're gods with amnesia, right? We are these all powerful beings. We just somehow got disconnected and we don't know it. We don't remember it. And so, which is like, that makes sense. Like, it's almost like we're like Thor when he lost his powers, right? And we're just stuck in that realm for a while. I don't think it's forever. I think it's just for X amount of time. Eventually, I think it all comes back and then we go forward from there, right? But this, you know, that's part of the unique experience of this realm, right? Some people describe this realm like Earth or whatever. It's like a cosmic school. As a school where you learn unique things here. Like, we have free will here, but we don't really know who we are, right? And so I feel like in that lack of identity, that explains like our suffering, our strife while we argue and fight with each other. I'm about to wrap this up. One of the quotes goes, if you can't see God in all, then you can't see God at all, right? And like they were like, when you start to awaken, you start to like notice that essence in everything. You can see like this rainbow kind of thing. And like, then and like another quote goes, no tree has branches foolish enough to argue amongst itself, right? Again, I feel like we argue and fuss and fight and we have all this suffering and strife because we don't know who we are. We don't know that we're these divine, infinite beings. We don't know that, oh, that person over there is just me in another lifetime. But there, as time progresses, you start to discover more and more cases of like reincarnation. I was watching a video the other day. This kid was reincarnated and solved his own murder. Like when he became like 2 or 3 or something like that, he was starting able to talk, and like he was reincarnated back into his family, something like that. And then he was like, "Oh yeah, that's where I used to do this and do this." And she was like, "Or can I have my toys?" And like the parents was like, "What?" And they were able to like pinpoint accurately like what happened to them, who killed them, where the body is, where the murder weapon is. Like, how do you explain something like that? Like, as a scientist, you have to acknowledge that this person was here before. There's no way that youth like that should know that, right? So this realm is really interesting. It's more than meets the eye. Things are not always what they seem. And so it's really, as much chaos is going on, this is still a really beautiful place. And this is a really exciting time to be alive. There's a lot of like, every time I sit and think about it, I get this strong sense that there's a lot of good coming right around the corner. Like, if we can just hold on, just let that bullshit kind of like fly past, don't even like, just survive, and we're gonna experience like a return to glory. Like, that's the sense that I always get. And so with that, we're gonna go ahead and close out the session here. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. Yeah. All right. From one beautiful mind to another, guys. Take care. Good luck with everything, and I'll do my best to help you. I'll do the best I can via email or whatever. All right, guys. Take care. Peace. See if there's anybody left here. Oh, let me get these gentlemen. Ooh.